Please ensure you follow all instructions, both announced and posted throughout the venue. If we are all conscious of our COVID-19 responsibilities and practice them sensibly, we can continue to enjoy the FINA Diving World Cup without further restrictions.
And welcome back to the Tokyo Aquatic Center, right in the heart of the Japanese capital. And we are preparing ourselves for the next competition at the FINA World Diving Cup of 2021. So we've seen the women in the prelims of the 10-meter synchro. Now we move down to the springboards once again at the Diving World Cup 2021 for the men's 3-meter synchro. Now this one will have a knockout facility in it because we'll have 17 different countries involved. No China. China not involved in quite a few of the competitions here in Tokyo. So it's the men's 3-meter springboard coming up next, and the final of the women's 10 we saw earlier on will be at 4 o'clock local time, so it'll be pretty much straight after that. And then the final of this competition we will see at 6 o'clock local. 17 different nations will be involved in this one, already qualified as of right from the World Championships in 2019. China, Great Britain and Mexico, and Japan as host nation get a spot as well. So just like all the other competitions that we have seen, there are 4 spots available, and plenty of countries who want it. So the Tokyo Aquatic Center, newly constructed in the Tatsumi no Mori Seaside Park. The games are done. There will be domestic and international competition here. It does host and hold 15,000 people. 15,000 people would have been had life been normal. Have been crammed into this building in about 3 months' time, but sadly that's not going to be the case this time around. Lovely facility. Diving will take place here, as will the artistic swimming and the water polo as well. So as I mentioned, 17 different nations will be involved in this one. A lot of inexperienced countries on the 3-meter board. We're going to see a combination from Kuwait and from Austria and from Spain, not normally associated with big diving programs. So powerhouses are in there too, like Great Britain, like Ukraine, like Canada, like Italy. They'll all be in here. And as is the pattern that you're probably acquainted with now, first 2 rounds will be the required, all worth 2.0. First up, here comes Spain, and Adrian Abadia and Nicolas Garcia-Boissier will be the Spanish combination. Russians second on to the pool deck, Evgeny Kuznetsov and Nikita Schleicher. Korea will be third up in the dive order with Wu and Kim. Austria up next with Alex Hart and Nikolai Scheller. Polish combination of Andres Ruszutek and Kasper Lesiak. That's the Colombians. Watch out for their big dive late on. Sebastian Morales and Daniel Restrepo for Colombia, followed by the Malaysians, who will be Hui and Chu. Georgia with Melikidze and Anikashvili. United States combination is Mike Hickson and Andrew Capobianco. There they are. Mexico. And it's going to be Yao Castillo and Juan Celaya. Italian combination of Giovanni Tocci and Lorenzo Marsaglia. And for Kuwait, Abdurrahman Abbas and Hassan Kali. Here come the Brits. Jack Law and Dan Goodfellow. Dan on the 10-meter board the last Olympics, on the 3-meter board this time round. Dominican Republic will have Frandiel Gomez and Jonathan Ruvalcaba. Germany represented by Patrick Hausding with Lars Rudiger. And last but by no means least, on full deck come Ukraine. And that will be Oleg Kolody and Alexander Gorshkovsov. What was the problem with Alexander's name? Gorshkovsov. Keep going for that one. 17 teams will be reduced to 12 for the final. We will lose 5 along the way in this one. First 2 rounds, 2.0. Doesn't matter how expansive or creative the dive is. It'll only be worth 2.0. And there'll be a lot of very similar dives. In fact, the majority of dives in round 1 will be very, very similar. So the good thing from a viewing perspective is you get a chance to compare and contrast. China, GB, Mexico already with their slots booked for the Olympic Games. So no worries for Dan Goodfellow and Jack Law in that respect. All they have to do is compete in this as an individual competition. Same for the Mexicans. They have their position for the Olympics, as do China and Japan.
Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome your officials.
Here come the officials for the competition. So let's have a look at the referee. There's Colleen Huffman, and Lang Rao will be the assistant referee. And it being synchro, we'll have 2 different sets of judges. We'll have the execution judges, that is the list of them, including Britain's Lindsay Fraser. And it will be the list of synchro judges, 5 of those. And, I'm sure most of you are very well acquainted with the marking system in diving right now, but when those marks come up, once with the lines through, do not count towards the total. When we get to the individual, much easier to explain. The marks that do count will then be multiplied by the degree of difficulty. That's how we arrive at the final score. Slightly different on synchro. It takes a little while to explain, so that's all right. But, just take it as read. The marks that you see will have been tabulated and worked out properly by computer. And of course, the higher the tariff, higher degree of difficulty, you'll lose 4. As I say, there'll be a wide range here of standard, because there are some emerging nations. There are those who've only really got a couple of divers going in this. And there'll be the powerhouses of world diving, like Russia, like the USA, like Mexico, Great Britain, for example. And on his phone, Dan, bronze medal with Tom Daly in Rio in the synchro. Jack Law. There's gold medalist Chris Mears on the 3-meter board in the synchro in 2016, and there's a silver medalist in the individual. So, going to defend his title with a different partner in a few weeks' time in Japan. There are some stalwarts, including the Russian combination, who've been around for a while. But we'll start with Spain. It's not a country that has an awful lot of depth in diving. Adrian Abadia and Nicholas Garcia up first. It'll be a back dive. It's a fairly straightforward back dive for them. Yeah, don't expect anything particularly special at this stage, but up and down quite comfortably there. Nothing wrong about it. And of course, as they're only worth 2, probably a great disparity in the scores. Although, as I say, 50's where you should really be aiming. Right, Nikita Schleker and Evgeny Kuznetsov going for their back dive. Tufal has been busy in Russia last year or so. Yeah, that's good. They're a solid combination. We should be coming up with some solid marks, you would think. 49.8. That's kind of where we thought they might be, early stages. Few knocking on the door of 50, I'm sure. Wu and Kim for Republic of Korea. Inward dive for them. Yeah, up and down. Not totally together in what they were doing. Execution marks might get a bit more punished than the Synchro, which is okay. 48.6, fine. Just enough start for the Koreans. Now, Alex Hart, Nikolai Shala go for the back dive, which is what you'll see for the next 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 dive combinations. We'll go with this. A good chance for you to see this and then do comparisons with those to come. Austria with their back dive. Yeah, apart from the fact they got into the pool in very, very different circumstances, very different places as well, which will knock that mark down considerably from the upper 40s to the upper 30s. Andrzej Raszutek and Kasper Lesiak for Poland. Back dive for the Poles. 29.8, the best so far from the Russians. And nobody has yet broken the 50 ceiling. That's nice. Yeah, nice and solid from the Poles. Nicely executed on Synchro. And the execution marks should be okay as well, and they are. 48 from Shutek and Lesiak of Poland. See where they're at when it gets the more complicated and complex dives later on. Sebastian Morales and Daniel Restrepo for Colombia, along with the Mexicans, and GB will have that very high tariff dive later on, round 6 for them. Should be a breeze. Is a breeze. He's okay with that. Just tapping his side. Not quite 50, but 46.80. Or just laying down some early markers here. Wait, and Chu for Malaysia. Back dive with Pike once again. Sure the tension on that board is just right. See that fulcrum right at the top of your picture, or the bottom of your picture as was. Let's adjust the tension of the board. Like a bit more springy, or like a bit more firm. Looks like a mattress equivalent, if you like. 46.2 for Oyen Chu. Marks coming in around about the same region at the moment. Early to late 46s. Here come the Georgians. Melikidze and Onikashvili. Just trying to get the rhythm right. Actually, that worked very well for them. I'm thinking that maybe that could throw them off a bit. But actually, that flexing of the board actually worked very nicely for them. Both execution and synchronization. This is nice opening for the Georgians. As much he could have done wrong or better with that. Now to Mike Hickson on the left and Andrew Capobianco on the right. A version of the back dive. Simple as, and reasonably well performed by the USA. 6.8. 8s across the board to count on Synchro. Mind you, again, those lines through the marks do not count towards the score. Only the ones that don't have a line through them will be involved in the calculation. Mexicans with Hernandez and Castillo. Yeah, nicely done. So there's not a lot that can go wrong, not many moving parts in these. And they'll be in that kind of 46 territory, I imagine. Yeah, right on it. 46.20 for the Mexicans. With those big dives to come later on. They've got a very high tariff range, as indeed of GB when we get to the Britons later on. There was dive 13. Now the Italians, Tocci and Massalia. It's not until we get to 16th pair that we actually change the nature of the dive. Everybody else doing back dives until then. Yeah, good enough. Probably a bit more than 46, maybe edging up towards 47 on that. 7.4. Tocci and Massalia. 8.5s on Synchro. Yeah, coach is happy, I think. Divers seem to be happy. Abbas and Kali for Q8. I believe there are only 2 divers in the international competition. Yeah, it's a little bit ragged. Not quite as aesthetically good looking as the other ones. And the marks will reflect that. 6 and 6.5 for the main scores on execution. Slightly more generous on Synchro.
Representing Great Britain,
And Goodfellow on the right-hand side of your picture. Jack Law, the Olympic champion in this event with Chris Mears. And silver medalist in the individual. We've got some huge Saraf dives to come. Might get close on 50 there, potentially. Maybe I'm being generous. Maybe I'm being generous, yeah. That to the full, that's me. 5.6. There's not much to determine between 46s and the 45s and 47s with Mo. Gomez and Rubalcaba of Dominican Republic, 14 of 16. Legs went a bit wobbly there from Rubalcaba on the entry. On the pre-entry status, which is why 36 is showing on the scoreboard. Germany, Patrick Hausding and Klaus Rudiger. So back dive before we get to a slight variant from Ukraine. Yeah, that will bring in some more points, better points for the Germans. That might take them very close to the lead, actually. Puts them in second place. 49.20, 8.5 sprinkled in there. And now Ukraine, Kolody and Gorsh Kovasov. Forward 1.5 somersaults. Nice to get a slight variance from what we saw before. Well, I'm slightly worried about where Kolody took off from there, but they got it round and they got it in. But that takeoff position is not going to help their marks a lot, I don't think. 43.8. Kolody definitely was a bit too far back off the board. And standings after one round. More round of required to come. 49.8 for the Russians, 49.2 for Germany. And tail off a little bit our Austria and Dominican Republic at the moment, but obviously it's only round 1 of 6. Some big dives to come. Great Britain in 11th place. Don't expect them to see them there at the end. I'm very surprised if they're not top 3 at the end. Top 12 will qualify for later. Only 4 countries will get dropped. Back around for second round with Abadio and Garcia from Spain with their reverse 1.5. Yeah, it's nice. A little bit more splash than perhaps they would have wanted on entry, but that's decent enough. Better than the 43.8 last time round, or not, judges? What do you reckon? Yeah, exactly the same, as it turns out. Sometimes, occasionally, judges will refute this, but sometimes divers are marked and judged on reputation and experience. All right, early leaders, Kuznetsov and Schlecker. Forward 1.5 from them as well. Yeah, they're looking okay. Slightly out of kilter in terms of the alignment, so it won't be as good as round 1. 7.4, 3/8 on the synchronization. Wu Haram and Kim Young-nam with their back dive. I'm sure everybody else did this before, but they're giving it a crack in this one. solid enough. Needs to be well executed. Probably not as good as the first round though. 48 they got there. And this time round, 45.6 for Wu Haram and Kim Yong-nam. Alex Hart and Nikolai Schaller from Austria. We'll be hoping they can improve upon their 39 opening with a reverse dive, which we'll also see from the poles to follow. Yeah, that's, I think, better than 39. Edges were pretty decent. Some quite good height achieved from that too. 42. Going to be one of the countries that's going to be just on the cusp, maybe slightly under the qualification line after 6 rounds, but a few who will be jostling for position for those 12 spots. Poland, reverse dive for Lesiak and Szutek. You guys will watch this because sometimes the feet get a little bit close to the edge. And Andre was a little bit too close to my liking to potentially tipping over. Just a few inches back from the end of the board is ideal. Right on the end of the board with toes over is not. There will be quite a few of these divers who will be just flirting with either falling off the side of the board or falling off the end of the board. We saw it in the women's yesterday that margins are quite tight, especially when you're bouncing on the board. Just a slight miscalculation. You can go in sideways or you can completely lose your equilibrium. Inward dive for Morales and Restrepo. Oh, I quite like that apart from the splash. Other parts of it looked alright, but the splash will be the thing that will knock the marks down. 4.4, so nice thing the judges see. Nice imprint in terms of their evaluation of the dive is what they see in terms of splash, in terms of the vertical or otherwise nature of it. Wayne Chu for Malaysia, playing round 46.2. Here's their reverse dive. Now, perfect positioning on the board for takeoff too. That coach will be very happy with that. Both of them prediction ideal positions. The marks will be okay. 46.2 with the 8 and 2 7.5s on Synchro. Mikidze and Nikashvili for Georgia with their reverse dive. Yeah, they do a little river dance on that one. Don't like it, coach? Don't think he did. No. Didn't like the synchro on that particularly either. 40.20. Not as good as their opening round dive, which was quite impressive. Now, the Americans, Mike Hickson and Andrew Capobianco. Reverse dive pike. Sixth after round 1. Things don't really start to shake up until we get to round 3, but this is all about trying to set the tone for the rest of your dives. They advance down the board at different times. I don't quite know whether the judges picked that up or not. I think they might have done on this occasion. It's the preparation for that's really where they take off and what they do afterwards really matters, but start, it's all part of the dive, the preparation in the lead up to it too, with 42 for America. That's not quite what they were looking for. Now, Hernandez and Castillo for Mexico. Reverse dive for them too. We will change it around when we get to Great Britain, but the next three are all like this. Great height, great height. Just lost the legs on entry, Castillo. Otherwise that would have been exceptional. Still pretty good. Might have been knocking on the 50 door. Now he got that together. Just down into the 7.5s rather than the 8.5s from that on execution. But nonetheless, quite a solid dive. Now the Italians, Tocci and Basaglia. Place from round one. Now, what I was talking about with the Americans, the Italians step by step, every single whale on that board, they were together. They were virtually together on Synchro. Overall marks are not massively impressive when you put them together. 44 and a bit. Abbas and Kali for Kuwait. 14th out of 16 from round one. And they improve upon that with their reverse dive. Well, maybe not. 37.8 for Abbas. Now Great Britain going to change things up a little bit. Inward dive for Goodfellow and Jack Law. First round only 45.6. I'm usually shy of that 50 from these two. They're looking to make amends. It's a real danger at this stage. The inward dive is straightforward dive for these two. Yeah, just like that. Shoving pigs. That's more like it. And the marks reflect that. 52.2, 9s in the Synchro. Amazing how that extra mark, or half a mark, really does project you forward. Great Britain go above the Russian Federation. Dominican Republic with Gomez and Rubalcaba. Reverse dive. The edge of the board again. That's why they ended up in different places. Just trying to bring it in a little bit. His teammate didn't have exactly the same problem and went for a little bit more room. 37.2 is not a great return for Dominican Republic. It's struggling to get some marks together here. Austin and Rudiger for Germany. It's in the dive. And we're just one more dive after this, away from starting the big stuff. Nice, good save on the entry from Rudiger, and it's going to get some decent marks. Synchro is nice, execution pretty good too. Yeah, 50.40. It's enough for Germany to take the lead for the time being at the end of round two. Still one more to come, Ukraine, but don't see them overtaking Germany at this stage. Kolody and Gorshkovasov. Back dive with Pike. Better than average from the Ukrainian divers. 48.6. Halves and an 8 thrown in on the Synchro. So, Germany, Great Britain, Russia, all nudging towards 100. Poland, Mexico, Korea, Malaysia, Ukraine. All those would be back if we were stopping the competition now. right down to Spain in 12th place. Georgia, Austria, Kuwait and Dominican Republic would not be returning. We have 4 more rounds, change that around. As we start to get into the bigger dives. Here's a good example for you. Straight away, Spain go for a 3.4, which is very high in their armory here. Forward, 2.5 somersaults, 2 twists. A test of how Abadia and Garcia-Boissier are looking today. Well, they got it round. They got it round, and he's delighted they did. But that's a tough dive for the Spaniards, and they've executed it pretty well. 71.40, and they'll be delighted to check with that. Not an easy dive at all. Let's move on to Evgeny Kuznetsov and Peter Schleicher. Barely recognise Kuznetsov these days. In with 3.5 somersaults with tuck. 3.4 degree of difficulty. Russia in 3rd place. Yeah, just a bit low in the water in terms of the entry. On the 3-meter board, you don't have anywhere near the amount of time you have on the 10-meter board just to reset. Just a bit low on entry, but nonetheless the marks are decent. Wu and Kim for Korea with their forward 2.5, 2 twists. 6th place at the moment, comfortably within that qualification zone. Got it around nicely. Good authority off the board. Nice entries from both. It's going to pick up some decent marks, especially on the synchro. 79.56. Yeah, that's good. Nice. Really aesthetically pleasing looking dive for the Koreans, who move up into 2nd place, not too far behind the Russians. Alex Hart and Nikolai Schaller for Austria now. They're back 2.5. Quite a long wait. And again, it's quite a hard dive to pull round. Those legs moving. They've done an okay job with it. And that's reflected in the judges' marks. 7.5s and 7s on synchro. It was replicated on the execution as well. Here the poles. They're forward 3.5, 3.1 done in the pike position. Make sure they get the attack on this right. Yes, like that. Quite a lot of splash. Not a ripped entry, but that's good. Synchro's excellent on that. Really good. 73.47. Yeah, they should be delighted with that, because that's going to move them up quite a bit. Who's up there with the top competitors? I like the way they approach that dive. Not very nicely. Morales and the Restrepo for Colombia. 10th place. They've got that get out jail free card in round 6, potentially the 3.9 should they need it. Put it up a bit more height then. That's what was lacking on that one. I just need to get a little bit more off the board to allow that to flow. It's all a bit rushed and a bit disjointed on the entry. Now Malaysia Wei Chu. Forward 3.5 with pike. In pike position. 3.1 for the Malaysians, who are currently in 7th. Just a little bit back off the board, just when he was playing a bit of catch up with Wei there for a moment. Synchro might be slightly out of kilter. Execution for Chu was a little less than he would have liked. Melikidze and Onikashvili for Georgia. 13th place at the moment after an impressive start. Just falling away a little bit. Again, knocking that board to get them in shape for an inward 2.5 somersaults. No, legs collapsed. Who'd be a coach, eh? Went through this, talked about it. Onikashvili, his individual marks side down as well. So after that promising start, rounds 2 and 3 not been quite so good from the Georgians. The Americans haven't really got going yet either. Mike Hickson and Andrew Capobianco. Big teams looking for one of those Olympic spots. Their forward 2.5 with 2 twists, 3.4. Quite like that. Quite like that. They quite like that too. Some big marks coming out of this one, which will move them up the standings. Yeah, they're 8s in both the execution and the synchro column. So the Americans, from languishing a little bit, start to make their move. And it's Theo now. Forward 2.5, 2 twists for the Mexicans. Currently 5th. Again, they've got huge dive. It's coming round 4. Toes, 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 toes. Just a bit close to the edge. Really does slightly unbalance that dive, and afraid that he's going to get caned for it. On to Tocci and Massalia for Italy. For 3.5. Worth 3.1. Got that around nicely. Again, just a little bit concerned that maybe one of the Italians might be on the edge of the board at one stage. Corrected the feet, got straightened up, got lined up nicely. That's a really solid dive. Tocci and Massalia go into 5th place. And still 5 to come. Kuwait, 15th place. Only one team below them at this stage. So work has to start here. Try and claw their way back into the top 12 if they can with this inward 2.5 somersaults pike. 3.0. It's alright actually. I don't think there's too much wrong with that. Carly might be a little bit low on entry. Yeah, it's been spotted by the judges. The synchro is not bad. They led briefly in the last round. They're second at the moment. Every chance of overhauling Russia with their first big dive of the competition. Inward 3.5 somersaults with tuck position for Goodfellow and Law. I'll not be surprised if they don't overtake Russia off the back of this. Not quite. Entries not exactly where they wanted them to be. Certainly from Jack's point of view, it's a little bit down on the standards that he would accept and we expect from him. Gomez and Rubalcaba for the Dominican Republic. 16th and last right now, but that can all change. We're 2.5. Entries are proving to be a bit of a problem for these two. Synchro was a little bit out as well. You can get one of the columns to work for you, but neither did that time. Housting and Lars Rudiger with their forward 2.5 somersaults and 2 twists. 2 more diving pairs to go in this round. Well, from the takeoff position, that was an incredibly good dive, because I thought there were elements of that could come unpicked very quickly, but Housing did what he had to do very well. Rudiger just maybe a smidgen below what he would have expected. Germany did go second off that dive. And finally, Kolody and Gorshkovasov. They would 3.5 somersaults tuck. Nope. No. Not to be on that one. Pull this off. Just lacking on that entry. So the end of round 3. And it is very tight at the top, but it matters too much in that part of the caption because they're all going through as of right anyway, that top 8 with a bit to spare. It's the second page that actually really counts. Because at the moment Austria, Kuwait, Georgia and Dominican Republic are not going through, and that's not really changing much, is it? We're a little bit cast adrift. Germany, Republic of Korea, Poland, USA top 5, Great Britain, the Olympic champions, or one of them certainly is, back in 7th place at the moment. Now, as I mentioned earlier on, we get a chance to see it this time. The reason there is a bit of a delay at this point is because obviously there has to be all the protocols gone through as we change the execution and synchro judges. There has to be a little bit of TLC being done to the seats and the writing positions. That's why we have a bit of a delay before we resume again. Just a reminder to you as we watch the Russians that the women's 3-meter synchro springboard final will be at 4 o'clock local. I'm currently in Tokyo, is 12 minutes past 1, so that's just under 3 hours time. We'll have the women's 3-meter synchro. All the 11 teams who were involved this morning go through. This one we're going to lose 4. Those arms. He nearly lost it, didn't he? And the takeoff. Trying to get your balance so difficult when you're taking off on 3-meter board. Trying to bounce in unison and then project yourself forward. Same time trying to get all the different part of the dive in. Should be ready to resume very shortly. Here come the second set of judges in position. And Spain ready to go with the Bardia and Garcia Boissier. Four will be an inward 2.5 somersaults for Spaniards.
Synchro 2, Violeta Reis. Synchro 3, Peter Axtelius. Synchro 4, Tony Coy. And Synchro 5, Yahya Tor. And we move on to the fourth round of
So we are ready for round 4. And Adrian Abadia and Nicolas Garcia Boissier. 10th place, which will be good enough right now for them to carry on in the competition later on. Just opening up a little bit of a gap with the rest. With 2.5 somersaults, pike for the Spaniards. Yeah, and whilst there's quite a bit of splash on there, it should be good enough to get them mid-range marks. Mid-range marks will be good enough to get them into the final later today. 64.80. Znetsov and Schleicher. 2.5 with 2 twists. The Russians currently the leaders. They got nearly to the point where that was going to be a very, very good dive. It's a good dive, and it'll pick up substantial marks on Synchro. Might just be knocked half a point to a point down there. Kuznetsov and likewise Schleicher. Wuharam and Kim Yongnan. Third place. Maybe they're a surprise element in this competition so far. 3.3 is the degree of difficulty on this one. Well, it's very interesting when that happens. So often when the divers don't attack the board at the same time or in the same way, they don't quite arrive in the fall at the same time. And Kim and Wu were slightly different stages of progression there. Alex Hart. Sherla. Just outside those qualification places in 13th. Reparation time starts now. In the 2.5 somersaults with pike. Haverfart again. Yeah, just a kind of knowing look, slight inclination of the head from the coach. Fortunately, Clark is the man at fault there for making that not happen. 5.80, it's a bit of a blow to their hopes. But both have come up with similar quality. That might have helped them a great deal, but it's going to knock them back just a step. Szutek and Lesiak for Poland. Fourth place, going nicely. Going very nicely, actually. In with 3.5, this would be quite a solid test of their mettle, which they come through pretty much. I know it's a little heavier the entry than they would like. Synchro was good. Execution maybe not as good, but Synchro was not bad at all. That's going to help them on the right-hand side of the column there. conversation between the two poles as they exit the water, but overall that's not a bad standard, and they'll still be up there with the leading countries at the end of this, or should be. Now the Colombians. The Mexican dive is only about 4 away now, 5 away. We can see the first of the 2.5 somersaults with 3 twists. But this is only a forward 4.5, only forward 4.5, he says. The big dive. Whoa, they threw themselves into that literally. Really did give that their all, give it their everything. And sadly, Morales gave it a bit too much. Risk and reward that we talk about with the high tariff dives. All of them have to do it these days. The 4.5 is part of every major diving nation's armour. I think actually the Chinese don't do it, or they weren't doing it, but pretty much everybody else is. Malaysians with a reverse 2.5 somersaults with 1.5 twists. Nicely done, good save. Coach will be delighted with that, really good save. And right across the board, these should be nice, attractive numbers for Chu. 7th on the right, 7th on the left. Will help them into a nice, comfortable top 4 at the moment. Melikidze, Mikashvili, got some work to do. Pretty good if they can get this one resolved. 3.1 forward, 3.5 somersaults. Don't like those feet. But nearly got it round. It's got to be what you're comfortable with, I know, off the board, but don't like those hot plate feet. Nor do the judges on that one. Right, the Americans starting to get going after a fairly lackluster start. Mike Haxon and Andrew Capobianco. Reverse 1.5, 3.5 twists. We haven't seen this dive before either, not in this competition. Reverse 1.5 somersaults, 3.5 twists, 3.5. A lot going on in this one. That's good. Oh yes, the USA have arrived. Very, very good indeed. Well, the judges didn't quite see it like I saw it. It won't matter because that mark will be taken away. The synchro's really good. Americans are putting on a bit of a charge now, last 2 rounds. And the Mexicans, here it comes. Here's that dive I was telling you about, the 3.9, the forward 2.5 somersaults, 3 twists. How, you ask me, do they get it all in off a 3-meter board? Here comes the answer. Yes, they do, just about. Just about. Well, because it's a high tariff, even if they're slightly below where they want to be, and they were on that one, it's still got a whole pile of marks coming their way. Once you don't fuck up totally on this, still worth quite a bit. Now Tochi Masalia. Okay, just altering that fulcrum to make sure they get the best purchase from their perspective. Forward 2.5 somersaults, 2 twists for Tochi and Masalia. Slightly out of rhythm in midair, came together and entered just about together, but I think Tochi was the man who will have the accusing finger directed towards him for what didn't quite work out for the Italians. 2.42 is the mark. There's a little division of smaller nations all battling it out down the bottom, including Kuwait. Abbas and Cartley with their forward 3.5 3.1 degree of difficulty. If they could get this right, it would help them a great deal. Well, from some stodgy entries, that was okay. Synchro was good. Synchro should be fine actually on that. Execution's where the question marks are going to be. Let's see. I think that's a bit harsh on the Synchro, you know. Execution, yeah. Synchro. Pretty decent from my perspective here. Dan Goodfellow, Jack Law. Certainly not where they want to be. I know it's only qualifications and they should easily sail through that. But they won't want to be in 7th. Time to reverse that with their reverse 3.5. More like it. Or is it? Can do it better. They will do it better probably in the final, but there's their 8s and 8.5s, and that's not to be sneezed at. 5 points behind Russia now. Great Britain in 2nd place. America just a point behind GB. Gomez Ruvalcaba. Forward 3.5. Seen this quite a bit in round 4. Nice, 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 nice. Yeah, like that. I think he does too. And they've got a chance, you know, with this to really project themselves up. They could get quite a few points here and quite a few places too. And a very poor start with their requireds. That's their best dive by far in the competition so far. Magic Housing on the left, Lars Rudiger on the right. First 3.5 somersaults, 3.5. Patrick bending his back. The coaches know, you know. Patrick, with all that experience, really had to whip those legs round. Kidder. And Houston almost did with the judges there to get his 7.5s and 7s. But it's good enough to take them into the lead. Kolody and Gorshkovasov, final divers in round 4. 2 more rounds to come. There's the forward 4.5 from Ukraine. Just short. Needed a little bit more room to execute that. Kolody and Gorshkovasov. What a shame. Wasn't that far away. Just the water came a bit too soon. So the end of round 4. Germany, Russia, Great Britain. They're separated by 8 points, and America just 1 behind. That page is pretty comfortable and pretty safe. So much change at the bottom? Not really, no. Still Austria, Dominican Republic, Georgia and Kuwait. 16 points between Austria and Colombia at this stage. Colombia should not be there, really, the quality they have.
5th round, Team Spain, forward 3.5
5th round for Abadia and Garcia Boissier. Spanish pair just inside that cut-off point right now. Trying to get even further away from it with the forward 3.5. Not bad at all. They like it. Fist pump. Not quite sure what to do to celebrate that one. But they'll celebrate those points all right. Knocking on the 70 door. And giving themselves a very good chance of being back later today. I think they are going to be the way things are looking. Kuznetsov and Schlecker. The reverse 3.5. Just in behind our leaders. Oh, what a save! What a save from Kuznetsov. The way he came off that board, I thought there was no way he was going to pull that dive around. And he just about managed it. Heart in mouth situation. How much will he get punished by the judges? A little bit. Only a little bit. give him bonus marks for actually getting that dive round, but that was not quite how he has envisaged it and quite how he wanted to perform it. But no damage done. Big dive for the Koreans now. They're reverse 3.5. Big inhalation of breath from Woo Haram. So good stuff. He's not going to take off, and unfortunately, it will be a failed dive. Because only one went, and the other one didn't. I did say takeoff's really important on this dive, didn't I? And he wasn't ready for it. One went, and that will be no point. And do you know what? That could just open the door. Having talked up how well Korea were going, it might just open the door for those teams who thought they didn't have a chance. That takeoff on that reverse is so important. Alex Harton, Scheller, forward 3.5. Shouldn't be no problems on takeoff on this one. Austrians now think, oh, do you know what? We've got a chance. And they do. They only need 40 to overtake Korea on this. 40 it will be, and some more. Yeah, they've got a very good chance now. The coach knows it. The Korea fluffing their lines. 66.96 will take the Austrians up quite a few pegs. So everybody thinking they may not be coming back this afternoon. They've got every chance of doing it now with one more dive to go. Onto the poles. They're forward 2.5 somersaults with 2 twists. Yeah, pretty good. Pretty good from the poles. They've definitely been consistent and a bit of a surprise throughout this. Synchro was not at all bad, just slightly off the edge of the board, which has an impact on the landing, but no reason to be happy with that. 74.46. Poles most certainly will be coming back later, even if they were failing that round 6 dive. I think they'll still be back. Morales and the Restrepo. 3.5 for Colombia. They need something to get them back on the horse because that last dive was poor. Their standard. Feet. Oh, again. They're making it very difficult for themselves on takeoff. Some of these quite established divers. And Restrepo's going to get punished for that. Synchro was mid-range, but they should be okay. No real alarms for later. Wei and Chu just making sure the tension on that board is correct. No foul ups on this. The inward 3.5 with tuck. 10th place because they're still a little bit too close to the cut-off line for their own salvation. Yeah, it's okay. It's okay. Again, you'll probably see them essentially do that better in the final. It'll be in that little middling area for marks. 67.32. Not poor, not great. Milakidze and Onikashvili, 15th place, but with Korea having the problems they've had, could they potentially get themselves up there by a few places? Forward 2.5 somersaults with 1 twist will tell us. Ooh. Well, it all went a little bit weird halfway through that. They seem to be almost doing different dives. Now there, it's fine, they're taking off together. Now look at midway through here. Look, it's twisting at different times to his partner. And they're completely out of sync and out of kilter. And the judges working out what to do about that. They'll probably go right down the middle. That's kind of what they've done. 6 on Synchro. 0.5 on execution marks. Mike Hickson and Andrew Capobianco for the USA, inward 3.5. The comfort zone of being 4th after round 4. That's all right. They think it's more than all right. I think Capobianco was just a little bit under what was expected in terms of entry. His legs kind of, did he pull them round? He was in the process of pulling them around. Well, yeah, it's probably to influence the judges because they've given one low mark, but it won't count. We're having a little review of that dive, but as they're doing so, we'll look at the Mexicans with their inward 3.5 somersaults. Yeah, again a bit too low to the water. Getting some decent marks. They won't be great marks, particularly because of what happened with Castillo there. They're going to land at slightly different times. Yeah, seen on the entries, though they awarded 7s. 67.32. Mexicans find themselves in 4th place.
Team Italy, inward 2.5 somersaults front.
Ian Marsaglia for Italy, inward 2.5. 8th place. Oh yes, where'd that suddenly come from? They pulled that rabbit out of the hat. Helped their cause quite a bit. 3.0 degree of difficulty, however, so they're not massive marks, and there's a little problem on entry, but it's all happening a little bit belatedly, so that shouldn't affect the scores. It doesn't.
Team U8, back to
I don't think we'll see these gentlemen back later on today. They've got far too much to do, even with Korea having the issues they did. Abbas and Kali in the back, 2.5 somersaults, 3.0, but it's good to see them trying these quite intricate and quite complicated dives. So we can come up with something sizable in terms of points here. Yeah, do you know what? I see where they're at in terms of their advancement. I don't think that's at all bad. So we've seen worse from more established countries, and 57.60, whilst not being quite what they want, they seem pretty happy with it. Smiles on faces, and they had a little bet about what they're going to get with that, and nearly 60 is not bad. Now, first of the 2 big dives for Great Britain. We've got a little problem with the... Or have we? We had a little problem with the technology, but we haven't. Here comes Goodfellow and Law. Yes! Yes, yes, yes! Oh, they like that. And so they should. It's going to do some decent things for them. Slightly out. Oh! A little save from kind of both of them a little bit there. That's experience for you. Great Britain go to the top of the pile.
Team Dominican Republic, forward 2.5
Only by 0.42 of a point, but let's put them ahead of the Russian Federation and USA and Poland in the top 4. Here come Dominican Republic with their forward 2.5, 2 twists. No. Sadly not. They came down to earth with a bit of a bump on that one. Again, different things are going on either side of the Great Divide there. Now Germany. Patrick Housting and Lars Rudiger. Reverse 1.5, 3.5 twists. Against that dive that needs to be precision from here. Just bounced back off the board, and it looked ungainly. I think Rudiger might get penalised for that. Look at this. He's just trying to get himself sorted. The arms are trying to stabilise things. Meanwhile, his partner's off and getting things done, and then he suddenly catches his arm and overtakes him. 67.2. It's not that bad in the overall grand scheme of things. Holiday and Korbasov. So Korean problem has really helped out those who might be a little bit indecisive about their futures. No. Holiday and Gorshkovasov. Head in hands for coaching staff. That's a very low mark incoming on the reverse 3.5. There, it's good. There, it's bad. 47.25. So a lot of change in that particular round. The biggest one, of course, being Korea dropping out of that first caption. That first page has Great Britain on top just from Russia, Germany. Now, how bad was the demise for Korea? Have they dropped out of the top 12? Yeah, right down the bottom. It could still be retrieved, could it? They've got to find 28 points probably from somewhere. I'm not sure they're quite capable of doing that, and they're going to be a bit shell-shocked after that last round, but let's see. Last round of the FINA Diving World Cup 2021 in the preliminaries of the men's 3-meter synchro springboard. And the Spaniards look like they'll be returning later. Abadia and Garcia Boissier. Reverse 1.5 somersaults, 3.5 twists. Huge dive, and again, takeoff was nearly a problem. That was the dive the Koreans had a problem with. Spaniards not to the same extent, nowhere near to the same extent, and they're going to get some very credible marks for this. Look at the feet situation. There's something about this dive that's causing people to have palpitations, but Dia and Garcia Boissier are back later today. That is for certain. 77.7 will get the job done.
Russian Federation.
Kuznetsov, Schlecker. Here comes their forward 4.5 somersaults. Remember, 3.8 it is worth, if they get it right, 3 figures. Nearly. I think it's what happened on the board that's going to count against them getting a huge mark. Because they'll mark Kuznetsov down for that very ungainly setup. The dive itself is good from there on in. They got his preparation right. They could have been looking at over 100. As it is, it's a big mark and a good mark, and they'll qualify for tonight with 88.92. Spain have also qualified as well.
Team Republic of Korea.
How can they and how will they recover from that catastrophe of the last round? They need something really big. They've got a big dive in which to do it. Forward 4.5. Have they got enough wriggle room to retrieve this? Will Kim. Oh, he's having problems again. Got it round this time though. Spooked by that last round. There's absolutely no doubt about it. Got the dive done. Right on the edge, I'm afraid. Judges have not liked what they saw there. And, well, they were hoping for a qualification spot. They're not even going to make the final on the basis of that. Such a good start. First part of the competition, they looked excellent right through to round 5, and it's all rather disintegrated from a Korean point of view. 12th place, last qualification place currently for Alex Hart and Nikolai Scheller of Austria, finishing on their forward 2.5 somersaults with 2 twists. Push those feet. Oh, got it round. Now you think the board's big enough they don't have to put their toes over the end. They are doing just that. And that immediately alters the balance of the dive. They've got it round and they'll have to wait now. 67.32 could be good enough to get them through. But we'll not be wanting to do those toes over the board jobs again this afternoon if they make it. Szutek and Lesiak for Poland. Here comes their forward 4.5. Well, that's what can happen on that dive. So much to fit in such a short space of time. Every possibility could be the end result. On this occasion, out of time, out of sync, and out of water. On the side of the board too. You don't see that from the sideways on shot. Only see that from the replay. They are qualifying anyway, even though that was not as good as they would have liked. There's a queue beside their name, Russia and Spain. At this stage, 3 definite qualifiers. Let's shoot with the next ones off the rank. Comes that 3.9 we've seen from Mexico, the forward 2.5 with 3 twists. It's been a mixed day so far for the Colombians. How will they finish? All over the place is the answer. Different things at different times. Judges are not going to enjoy that. Aesthetically, that's very, very ugly. But high tariff dive does at least bring them some return. 67.86, but that was about as ugly as any dive we've seen in this competition. Oyen Chu for Malaysia. Forward 2.5, 2 twists, 9th place. Should be fine. Find this is reasonable. Average will still do, I think. Although, where are they going? Yeah, well, yeah, he sums it up. The shake of the head tells you pretty much all you need to know about that dive, because I have no idea what Chu is doing there. They're arriving at the water in different months, not in the same dive. 3:36, not qualified yet. They don't have a queue beside their name. They're going to have to wait. That is not good enough yet. Malaysia 3:36, Austria 3:34. Georgia 14th place. Forward 2.5. somersaults, 2 twists, 3.4. Still mathematically possible for them to make that top 12. Ooh, it was ugly in the air and okay when they landed in the pool. So again, the judges are going to go by what they see in the preparation. Will knock them down in terms of marks, and I think it's going to be not good enough for them to advance. Look at how it suddenly comes apart then. And the entries were okay, a lot of splash, but got it back together on entry. 61.2. It's Malaysia are through, but they're not. Dixon, Andrew Capobianco. After the last round, they only need 14 points to make absolutely certain that they're going to go through. There should be that and a lot more on their forward 3.5 somersaults, 3.1. Mixed bag today for the Americans, but good enough, I think. That's better. That's much better. They've had a couple of really good dives and a mix otherwise. That will be right in that proper wheelhouse in terms of marks they need. Getting up towards 400 points. And what they get for that one is 71.61. Yeah, just 5.65 shy of that 400. Russian Federation, the only team who've gone over 400 so far. USA qualified. Russia, Spain, Poland, Colombia, Malaysia all definitely back. These two should be as well. 3.8. Here comes their forward 4.5. Haven't seen anybody really nailed this yet. They came close to it. Really good effort. It's better than the couple of the ones we've seen so far. 75.24 is what I'm seeing. Just waiting for confirmation of that on my screen. You'll get it when I get it. Just should be any moment now. There you go. Mexico will return. I think we'll be maybe a little bit better later on today. Tocci and Massalia with their inward 3.5 somersaults. 3.4 to round off their program. Not confirmed on the scoreboard as qualified, but this should be enough. She collapsed on the entry there, which threw his team up a little bit as well. These will not be big marks. She's an experienced diver. Just look at the way the whole body and everything else pretty much falls apart on entry. It's a 3.24, but another session in which to improve. They're both into the final for later today, which means we have 8 of the 12 qualified now, confirmed. Unlikely to see these two back. For 2.5 somersaults, 1 twist, pike for Abbas and Carly from Kuwait. Well, that's not bad. You know, when you look at the overall scheme of things and the fact that they're not one of the big diving nations, indeed with the infrastructure that the others have, that is not bad. A lot of people might scoff at 5s and 6s, but I don't think they should. On that dive, 54 from Abbas and Carly. They were smiling a little bit earlier on, not smiling quite so much now, but it's a decent job done by them. Dan Goodfellow, Jack Law, leaders after round 5. This is their forward 2.5 somersaults, 3 twists. Good to see them in stratospheric numbers for this one. A bit short, Jack on entry. Not going to be huge marks. Oh dear. Just couldn't quite pull it round, nor did Dan. It's going to safely qualify them for the final, as you would expect. They didn't quite hit the 400 ceiling. 63.18 as they study very attentively what's happening on that screen with that dive. And look to improve upon that when they get a chance later on today. 6 o'clock local, by the way. Tokyo time is the final of the men's 3-meter synchro. Gomez and Ruvalcaba, right on the cusp here. They could, you know. Inward 3.5 somersaults, 3.4. Let's see. No, not in terms of synchro anyway. Synchro is way out. Germany and Ukraine to go. Afraid they're not going to make it with that. Synchro was a long way out. Tough dive for Dominican Republic. And a tough result. That's not going to be good enough, though. They are 12th right now, and there's something unforeseen happens with Germany and Ukraine. It's going to mean probably 14th place for them. Hastings and Rudiger. Their final dive, which is the forward 4.5. And so we're not seeing anybody post big numbers on this yet. Is this the time? Well, it's good. It's good. It's not spectacular, but it's very good. Could be edging up towards 80 maybe. Not good enough to get the huge numbers that can really transform a competition, but in terms of maybe low 80s potentially. So waiting for the marks to come up on our screen. So that'll be my best guess. That 75.24, but it does take them over 400 to join the Russian Federation in doing that. Great Britain slide down to 3rd. That's where they're going to finish. Ukraine can't catch them with this. Kolody and Gorshkovasov just need to make sure, because they are 11th, that nothing untoward happens with their back 2.5 somersaults, 1.5 twists, 3.4 to conclude this men's 3-meter synchro. Yeah, that'll get it done. Ukraine progress. And the last of the teams to qualify for the final. There'll be one of the early starters in the final later today on the back of that. Marks are 73.44, what's the 7.5 across that scoreboard, and we are complete. Russia lead and will carry those positions into the final. They'll be the last to dive. Germany, Great Britain, USA, Mexico, no worries, right down that card to Poland in 8th place. We'll see who the other 4 are that are going to make it through to the final later today. Here they come. Colombia, Ukraine, Malaysia, Austria do make it because of the Korean drop dive. Austria do just sneak in there. Actually sneaking in by 13 points in the end. But Korea, very sad news for them. One drop dive really has dropped them out of the equation. Could be a really exciting final. Remember, there are 4 places up for grabs for the Olympic Games in 3 months' time. Great Britain have their place, Mexico have theirs, no China here today, and Japan have theirs, so Russian Federation, Germany, USA, and Spain would be. We went on the morning's reaction. Spain being top 6 is quite a revelation. It's a massive improvement for them. Not so good for Dominican Republic today, though. Final of the men's 3-meter, 6 o'clock local. And the women's 10-meter Synchro platform will be at 4 o'clock. So it's about 2 hours away. We'll catch you for the next final at 4 o'clock. See you then.